Tell me, what is this defector's name?
Ankhat, the Talati wish to speak to him about this unknown station and have agreed to temporarily cease hostilities to allow him safe passage through their space.
Broker a truce with the enemy in the opening days of a war? And right after our holy victory against the God Realm? How dare you insult our righteousness? Leave my presence immediately.
Of course, Holy Pontifex. My apologies, Holy Pontifex.
Computer, open a missive with my spy master among the Talati. Have him set up this meeting with the defector. Do not inform the council. I want this meeting to be in secret.
It was during the Second Battle of Pious Mists that an anomaly was registered within Holy Vision. Pegasus scouts were sent to investigate and determined it to be the opening of a wormhole. These tears in space, while rare, have been seen before, and this discovery was set aside as all resources have been devoted to the war. At least that was the original intention, as shortly afterwards a second anomaly was registered, but this was far larger. So large, in fact, that its origin point was determined to be in the Grand Exchange sector. It was theorized that these two anomalies were somehow connected and navigation beacons were sent through the opening. Unfortunately, the results were the same as any other wormhole in the Commonwealth. Any object sent through was lost and never seen again. The scientists were in the middle of discussions on whether they should next send a crewed ship into the wormhole when they received a message detailing the second anomaly. A Paranid from the God Realm had discovered that it was a suspected Terran station. This Paranid, Amonkalik, wished to convert to the Holy Order and gifted this station as a show of faith. The scientists were ecstatic by the news and redoubled their research into how to travel through the wormhole. While the Holy Order now had legal claim over the station, they could not reach it as the path went through God Realm space. With strong supporting evidence that the two anomalies were in fact connected, they saw this as the best means of reaching their new prize. This incredibly gracious gift was accepted without question by the Holy Order Science Division, but the High Council had their doubts. For a single individual without heritage, this should have been far beyond his means. This act also denied the God Realm such a prize, and during the opening days of a war no less. The council members were highly suspicious of Amonkalik's motives and ordered his return to Holy Order space to undertake the rites of initiation. Any convert to the Holy Order is required to undertake this rite to prove their faith, and Amonkalik would be no different. The Terran station, while publicly declared a grand offering, could be seen as a bribe to bypass this test. The Holy Order fleets were greatly diminished in the past battles, and Amonkalik's right would be to deal with any raiders in their space. Kayak raids had markedly increased in the Lasting Vengeance sector, and Amonkalik was ordered to rendezvous with a small fleet tasked with removing the insectoids. While en route, a distress call was sent from multiple installations within Cardinal's Redress. Somehow, a rattlesnake destroyer managed to get deep inside Holy Order space and was wreaking havoc. The station defenses in that sector were meant to repel large amounts of smaller craft and were incapable of damaging such a heavily armored ship. The fleet was redirected to confront this new threat, but Amonkalik did not receive the order and continued on to Lasting Vengeance alone. The mining fleet in the sector did not have any military escorts. Being so far from the front lines, it was deemed unnecessary. While they did have sector patrol craft, these were pulled away to Pontifex's claim to replace the losses from the God Realm surprise attack. Once they left, kayak ships immediately set upon the miners. This was expected, but the scale of the attack suggested that the kayak had an undiscovered base of operations at the edges of the sector. When Amonkalik entered the sector, many of the smaller mining ships had been destroyed, and a Thanios-class large miner was drifting through space, its engines disabled. Initially perplexed that there was no sign of the fleet he was meant to rendezvous with, he still flew his Perseus fighter directly towards the Thanios to aid in the fight. With the support of the large ship's defensive turrets, the kayak ships were destroyed, but more time would be needed to bring the engines back online. Like sharks drawn to a bleeding whale, the kayak began converging on the damaged miner. Amonkhalak sallied out towards the attackers, dealing as much damage as possible before retreating behind the Thalios, using the ship's large size and turrets as a defensive bulwark while his shields recharged. Again and again he did this, somehow surviving against the growing swarm. Nearby mining ships in the area witnessed this reckless heroism and converged towards the battle, forming a ring around the Thalios. Their mining lasers were mostly ineffective against the kayak, but the sheer volume of light confused the enemy and the intensity of the attacks noticeably lessened. Eventually the Holy Order fleet, having destroyed the Rattlesnake, arrived in sector and swiftly drove away the kayak. Pegasus scouts were sent to locate where the enemy had come from, with the remaining ships spreading out to patrol the sector until proper policing ships could be brought in to relieve them. The captain of the Tholios joyously expressed his gratitude for Amonkhalak's valor and boldness. He pledged his services to Amonkhalak and stated that he would remain in lasting vengeance to help defend against any further kayak raids. The other miners from the battle also pledged their support, although none stated that they had any wish to continue the fighting. Soon word spread of the hero of vengeance, and more of the civilian fleet began to see Amonkhalak as their holy protector. When this news reached the High Council, they were not at all pleased. The population was starting to see Amonkhalak as a living saint. While such devotion to an individual, of course below that of the Pontifex, is not unheard of, to have an individual's fame increase so fast and right after their conversion is cause for concern. The appearance of Amonkhalak from seemingly out of nowhere to now becoming a hero of the people was seen as too much of a coincidence among the council members. They needed time to determine what to do about Amonkhalak. Luckily for them, in another convenient coincidence, the Talati requested an audience with Amonkhalak to discuss what to do about the Terran station located in their space. The Pontifex, seeing an opportunity to rid himself of the defector for a time, ordered his spy master to arrange the meeting.
Command, this is Pegasus LHS-378. I've arrived at the jump gate to second contact. Running latency check on satellites A through D.
Connection established.
All are green. I will now jump through the gate to deploy satellites in enemy space. Wait. Something is coming through the gate. Alert! It's the Argon! No. Those are Republic ships. It's too late. The Antigone Republic are here.